Forensic science has become a cornerstone of crime solving. It is almost impossible to commit a crime without leaving a trace, and forensic experts can use even the most minute of these clues to identify a criminal. But this was not always so. Before modern scientific advances developed, crime solvers relied on confession, eyewitness accounts, and the most obvious of clues. 200 years ago, John Toms had a business dispute with his neighbor. Enraged, he vowed to get revenge. Toms carefully loaded his pistol, first with gunpowder, then with a wad of paper torn from a song sheet to hold the gunpowder in place. He placed the rest of the song sheet in his breast pocket. Toms made his way to the neighbor's yard, where his target was strolling. He aimed, fired, and hit his mark. Then he approached his victim. While bending over, the wounded man grabbed hold of Tom's sleeve for a brief moment before he died. Toms swiftly ran away. The sheriff came to investigate and quickly found the clue that led him to suspect Toms. He found on the victim the wad of paper Toms used to secure the gunpowder.
On your feet.
When the sheriff's men questioned Toms, they found the rest of the song sheet just where he'd left it, in his pocket.
Of murder.
Quickly, they were able to match this paper to the wad removed from the crime scene.
Take him away.
And Toms was arrested. He was tried, found guilty, and hanged for his crime. In the last 200 years, detectives have come to rely more and more on forensic evidence. Today, with modern scientific tools in hand, this investigation would be handled quite differently. A scientific method would be employed using observation, data collection, forming and testing hypotheses, and arriving at a conclusion. Toms left a slew of clues that modern forensic experts could use to link him to the crime. Even if John Toms had burned the song sheet and made efforts to disguise other clues, experts would still have plenty to go on. First, they would secure the crime scene to protect any evidence. They would also take photos of the entire scene. Then, forensic investigators would take the temperature of the victim to determine the time of death.
Body temperature.
This data would help scientists form a hypothesis on the identity of the criminal. Detectives would systematically comb through the crime scene for other clues, collecting further data. A footprint that Toms left in his escape would be cast in plaster. It would show that Tom's boot matched perfectly, down to a chip on the heel. Continuing to collect data to support or refute the hypothesis, the forensic team would examine the body for hair and other evidence. They would look under fingernails for bits of fiber. Collected with adhesive tape, the fibers would be taken to the lab for analysis. The team would gather clothing from the suspect to compare to fibers found at the crime scene. The fibers in Tom's vest make a perfect match. Blood on the victim's hand would lead detectives to believe that they will also find the victim's blood on the suspect. Tom's blood-stained shirt would be collected and analyzed. In the lab, scientists would use DNA analysis to test the blood on the shirt and compare it to the victim's. Because each person has a unique DNA code, the results of this kind of test are generally conclusive. The blood on Tom's shirt would definitively match his victim's. The gunpowder Toms used would also provide clues. It leaves a residue on the hands and face of the shooter. Samples from the victim's wound and swabs from Tom's face would be analyzed in a crime lab. Using a technique called chromatography, which separates chemicals in the gunpowder, the samples would be a perfect match. Forensic scientists would now form a conclusion based on the data collected. The mountain of evidence would conclusively pinpoint Toms as the culprit. Despite Tom's best efforts to disguise the clues, modern forensic science could detect traces of evidence beyond the naked eye. Today, scientific proof would convict Toms with the aid of tools that were unimaginable 2 centuries ago. What tools did present-day forensic scientists use to solve this investigation? What observations did modern-day forensic scientists make that helped them determine that John Toms was guilty of this historical crime?